Just when you think you have seen it all and had it all, life slaps you with something even more bizarre. This online dating drama has left many in a shock of whether this is real life or some kind of opera scene. There is this lady that met a man on a dating app and the man opted for a meetup. However, this lady decided to go CIA on him, involving her mother into the investigation, and what she found out just minutes away from meeting this guy is shocking. This man had pages and pages of charges including strangulation and battery. You can only imagine how did she escape him. Let us get into this dating app drama right away. This lady's journey into online dating was motivated by the challenge many people face, finding meaningful connections in real life. She explained that it is originally difficult for her to meet people, which led her to dating apps as a primary means of connecting with potential partners. She created a Facebook dating account where she came across a man whose profile caught her attention. His appearance in his profile stood out to her, and based on this first impression, she felt that he was someone worth pursuing. After exchanging some messages, the man suggested a meetup, an idea she was open to at first. However, given that online dating comes with its fair share of risks, she took some precautionary measures. One of the first steps she took was asking for his full name. The man provided only a screenshot of his Facebook profile, which didn't feel like enough for her to be entirely comfortable. Wanting more information, she decided to check him out online. Looking up the names he had shared, her goal was simple. She wanted to know if he had any criminal background that might raise any red flags. Living in Indiana, she knew of a government-run site called mycase.in.gov that offers public records of legal cases. She decided to put the names through this website, but surprisingly, no criminal record showed up under either name. For the moment, this seemed like a green light to proceed with the date. Based on the available information, there appeared to be no immediate threat, and this reassured her enough to continue with the plans. Still, the decision to proceed was not entirely without caution. She had done what she thought was necessary to ensure her safety. However, as she was getting ready for the date, she still felt some unease. The situation was already starting to feel a little more complex than a simple meeting. At that point, the investigation was still in progress, with a mix of relief and lingering doubt. In this context, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the approach this lady took. She was simply trying to exercise caution. After all, she was about to meet a man she had only known through a dating app. Whether you're meeting a potential date, a business associate, or a stranger, understanding who you're dealing with is an important step. Her actions weren't extreme, they were protective. She wasn't just taking the typical steps most people might take, asking for names and confirming identities, but she was going the extra mile to ensure her own peace of mind. This is something that we all might benefit from, particularly in the world of online dating where the risks are often higher. By simply asking for his full name and then verifying it through a public database, she was being proactive in her safety. But what's interesting here is that after getting the initial details, she noticed something strange on his dating profile. The man had listed his workplace but no further inspection. She discovered he had altered his last name by spelling it backwards.
I got completely ready for a date, drove 30 minutes to the date, sat in the parking lot for 2 minutes, turned around, and went right back home. And I know it sounds like I just stood this dude up, or I saw him and I didn't like what I saw and left. That's not the case. Okay, so here's the backstory. Even though I've said a million times I'm done with dating apps, it's just realistically for me, it's hard to organically meet somebody. And so I made a Facebook dating account today, and which I will be deleting. And I matched with this guy, and I thought he was cool. I mean, he looked nice. And we're texting a couple times, and he goes, hey, are you busy tonight? Like, did you want to just meet up instead of just, like, the small talk on here? And I was like, sure, screw it. Like, I'm free. Why not? Let's be adventurous, I guess. Here's the thing. I asked for his first and last name, and all he did was send me a screenshot of his Facebook. I didn't know that he spelled his last name backwards on Facebook. I should have known because it was like kind of like a weird last name, but I was like, well, I mean, maybe it's just like a name I've never heard of.
This was an unusual move. What was the reason behind this alteration? Was it to hide his identity or simply to appear more anonymous? Whatever the motive, it did spark additional curiosity. After eventually getting his real last name, she dug deeper into his history. This time, the search results weren't as alarming as she feared. She found only a few minor offenses such as traffic violations, something most people experience at some point in their lives. These charges were the kind of everyday mishap many could relate to, and not the serious criminal activity she was worried about.
So I live in Indiana, and in Indiana there's something called mycase.gov. I don't know how many other states have it, but anyway, you can go to mycase. It's mycase.in.gov, and you can put in somebody's first and last name, or you can just put their last name if it's like a, kind of an uncommon last name. I put his information in and nothing came up. I was like, okay, cool, he's clean. And then I thought about it. I was like, wait, on the dating app it says that he works for this company. That would be his last name backwards. So maybe that name is actually his last name. And I did see a couple things that popped up, but a lot of it was just like traffic violations. So I was like, well, that's not bad. Like, I feel like most people are going to get a traffic violation at some point in their life. And I was already getting ready. I'm like, man, I'm kind of like running late, whatever. Like, I think he seems like a good guy.
These minor infractions were a reminder that even those without a criminal history might still carry baggage. At the same time, she was preparing for the date, dressed and ready to meet this man in person. The fact that she was simultaneously going through this research while gearing up for the date shows how important it was for her to feel secure. By the time she found the traffic violations, she had already set everything in motion. It was a delicate balance. On one hand, the cautious background checkup, and on another, the excitement and anticipation of meeting someone new. One thing that stood out in this story was the lady's thoroughness when it came to the background check. This wasn't the first time she had used online dating apps to find connections, and she had learned over time that doing research on potential dates could be a lifesaver. This wasn't just about checking names or basic info. She had the habit of investigating almost everything else she could find, often including details like family members' names and social media profile, trying to piece together as much as possible about the person she was about to meet.
I was already getting ready. I'm like, man, I'm kind of like running late, whatever. Like, I think he seems like a good guy. Every other person that I've ever met from a dating app, I mean, I know their mom's name, possibly where they live. Like, this is the one time I did not go, like, CIA investigation.
She wasn't just focused on what the man had told her. She needed to know more. This level of investigation was an instinctual habit for her, something she felt she had to do before any real interaction took place. After all, a dating app profile can easily be fabricated, and in a world where online interactions can be manipulated, having as much information as possible felt necessary for her peace of mind. However, for this particular date, she didn't dive as deeply as she had in the past. She had only looked up traffic violations, assuming that minor offenses wouldn't be something to overthink. But just as she was about to meet the man, her mom, who shared her conscious nature, stepped in. The mother decided to investigate the man further, perhaps sensing something was off. While the lady was already on her way to meet the man, her mother took it upon herself to dig deeper, checking out any public records she could find on him. What her mom found was alarming: multiple charges of battery, strangulation, and breach of privacy. These weren't just minor offenses like traffic tickets. These were serious charges. This revelation was a game changer.
But my mom did, because something in her mind goes, wait, something feels weird. And thank God for my mom, for Mama Bing Bong. I'm going to tag her right there. She is looking into this man the entire 30 minutes that I'm driving, and there are pages and pages and pages and pages. And she's like, I'm pretty sure this is him, because you could see a lot of stuff on that. And she's like, a lot of the descriptions on here are matching about what you told me about him. As I'm pulling into the parking lot, she goes, do not go inside. He has several charges for battery, strangulation, several charges for breach of privacy, which I'm pretty sure is like stalking. I got off the phone with my mom, and I said, let me call him real quick, and I'm going to go home. I called him, and I said, hey, just letting you know, my mom looked you up. She's a little investigative baddie, and she found some things.
The man the lady was about to meet wasn't just someone with a few minor infractions. He had a history of abusive behavior. This discovery raised serious concerns, and it was only thanks to her mother's quick thinking and proactive research that the lady was able to avoid a potentially dangerous encounter. In the minutes leading up to their meeting, the lady had been unaware of these darker aspects of his past. She was, in a sense, on the brink of meeting someone who could have posed a significant threat to her safety. Thanks to her mother's intervention, she was saved from an extremely risky situation. This turn of events highlights how crucial it can be to rely on others when navigating the online world. While the lady had already done her part in being cautious, it was the additional information from her mother that truly kept her out of the harm's way. In conclusion, the lady's initial research was useful, but the deeper investigation prompted by a mother's concern uncovered far more concerning details. In an era where dating can sometimes be dangerous, the importance of looking beyond surface level information cannot be overstated. The call to the man after receiving a warning from her mom. The lady immediately made the decision to call the man as she was about to leave. She informed him about the disturbing findings her mother had discovered regarding his criminal past. His response was chillingly nonchalant, simply saying, "Okay."
I got off the phone with my mom, and I said, let me call him real quick, and I'm going to go home. I called him, and I said, hey, just letting you know, my mom looked you up. She's a little investigative baddie, and she found some things. And he goes, okay.
This response didn't offer any remorse or denial, which is already a red flag that suggested guilt. The fact that he didn't try to justify himself or ask questions only reinforced her doubts about him. His response was even more disturbing. Rather than denying the allegations, he simply confirmed them, saying that it was him. But then he tried to downplay the seriousness of the charges, claiming that it didn't happen like that and assuring her she had nothing to worry about. This was especially alarming, as it demonstrated an apparent lack of empathy or remorse. How could anyone in their right mind believe a stranger with such a background, especially someone who had already shown signs of being dishonest? The lady's wise decision. Despite his attempts to minimize the situation, the lady remained firm in her decision to leave. She wisely apologized for wasting his time but made it clear that she had plenty to worry about, especially since she didn't know him at all. Turning her back on him and leaving was the best course of action. Her ability to trust her instincts and remove herself from the situation was commendable and likely saved her from potential harm. The need to explain. The lady's decision to explain herself in her video raises an important point about boundaries and safety. She shared that if the man ever saw this video, she wanted him to know that she was praying for him and hoped he would find someone else to date.
Nothing to worry about. I go, hold on, I don't know you. I said, yeah, I got a lot to worry about. I said, I'm really sorry, and I'm sorry that I wasted your time. Like, I literally drove all the way out here, but I'm going home. I said, I can't make that risk. And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. You do not owe a stranger a damn thing. Found him on all accounts, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, blocked him. As long as he doesn't, whatever, like, I hope he does not see this. And if you do see this, I told you I would pray for you and hope that you do find somebody and that didn't actually happen. But anyway, I got Taco Bell. I'm gonna go put my jammies on and go smoke.
While it may seem like a compassionate gesture, explaining herself this way could have been risky. The man had already shown he was capable of deceit, so giving him any insight into her actions might have been a dangerous move. Was explaining necessary? From a safety perspective, the explanation could have been unnecessary. She didn't owe him an explanation about why she was backing out of the date, and sharing such details about her mother's research into his past gave him valuable information that he could potentially use later. If the man had nefarious intentions, knowing her mother's involvement could have prompted him to seek out more information about her and her family. The risk of providing too much information. The more she shared with him, the more she opened herself up to potential danger. By letting him know that her mother had researched his background, she may have inadvertently made herself a target. A manipulative person could use this knowledge to manipulate the lady into giving them more personal details, or even attempt to harm her or her family. Blocking him and leaving him without explaining would have been the safer option, as it would have kept her actions hidden and more difficult for him to track. The paranoia or practicality. While someone may argue that explaining herself was a form of closure or kindness, it's also important to consider in situations like this, it's better to err on the side of caution. In an era where personal information is so easily accessible. Providing too many details could ultimately escalate the situation. While it may seem like a paranoia to be overly cautious, this is a case where being cautious could make all the difference in staying safe. So basically, this is how she was able to escape a closely dangerous person in just about a minute of meeting him, all thanks to her CIA mother, whose instincts she highly follows. Moral of the story: never take anything for granted. Make as intensive research as you should to ensure your safety with a stranger. No research is creepy for as long as it's being done for good intentions. This is how this lady got away and may have, and unfortunately somehow, gone through the worst case scenarios because of taking the world flat, thinking everyone is sweet as they look. Making a background check is absolutely harmless. At least it's better than ending up in a true crime story, don't you think? There have been a lot of weird dating app stories, and there's this guy on TikTok named Robbie Bad who basically meets ladies on Tinder and then explains his weirdest encounters, and y'all, his experiences will get you on a roller coaster of nasty to weird, creepy, and all other emotions. So his one encounter was when he started texting with a lady on Tinder, and they both had established that they had been up for a hookup, so they met at his. And when he asked her what she wanted different to happen, she answered she just wanted to be dominated as she had always been a submissive. So he narrates that in the middle of the deed, they switched up places to have her on the top as a dominant to exercise her fantasy. Well, turns out she was the physical type, as she literally strangled him and slapped him a couple of times, which he just rode with since he had given her the right to do what she wanted. And then she went ahead to pull his ear real hard. This left him puzzled at what exactly she had been aiming at.
I matched with this girl on Tinder. We text for a couple days, and we're both looking like for a casual hookup. So I invite her over, she comes over, and I ask her if there's anything she's ever wanted to try in bed that she's never done before. She said she wanted to be more dominant because she's always very submissive. I was like, okay, girl, perfect, we can try that. I put a movie on, we kiss a little bit, and we start doing the deed. For the first half of the doing the deed, I'm mainly on top, so it's kind of hard for somebody that's on bottom to be dominant. So I ask her if she wants to get on top to try whatever she wants to do. She's like, okay, yeah. So she's on top, and right away she starts choking me. She slaps me a few times. I'm like, okay, girl, you're getting into the swing of things pretty good here. And then she pulls my ear really hard. I'm like, this is what my mom used to do in a grocery store. I've never had this done in bed.
But the nastiest thing happened when she asked him to open his mouth. Well, I don't know what you think she wanted to happen, but she basically wanted to spit in his mouth, which is already as nasty. The thought of it has sent me goodies all over my body, but something worse happened. She spit in his face instead, and some going into his eyes. Well, if that wasn't a mood breaker, I don't know what it is. So basically, she was all apologizing for her missed target, but she should have apologized for everything. Because what the hell was that? Robbie should have left traumatized by this, because what was that? Her first time being a dominant didn't work out quite well, and yet Robbie was still up for more of these blind dates.